What is up, Hunk Nation? This is Greg Mullis, manager of corporate operations, and we are coming to you with a Coach's Corner treat today. And I have the pleasure, I am in the nation's capital, DC, and sitting here with Mr. Ty Jackson, who is the general manager of Junk. Ty, how you doing? Introduce yourself.
I'm doing well again. Thank you, Greg. My name is Ty Jackson. Been with College Hunks. This is my 9th year. 10 years will be next year, so I'm excited.
You get that nice jacket next year.
Yes, sir. I am excited.
All right. So today, guys, we're talking about doing more with less. And we have a really cool story to talk about, something that we've been working on and testing here in the corporate location of DC. And again, doing more with less. So what we're going to talk about today is how we're completing more jobs on less leads. And I'm just going to set the stage and give you guys a little bit of stats. So last year, for the entire year of 2022, on the junk side of the business, we were at 80% booking, which is pretty good. And we were at 65% completion, which is below benchmark. As a benchmark, we set for the system 70%. So there's definitely room for improvement there. And our average job size was $599, right at that 600 mark, which again, we're in DC. That's a pretty good average job size. That's right about our half truck rate, or was the rate last year. But number-wise, pretty high across the system. So solid average job size. So those were the stats last year. And our goal coming into this year was we wanted to increase the number of people that we got in front of, increase our jobs completed. We knew that, just with the way the potential economy, everything going on, we need to try to maximize every single lead that comes through and get in front of every person that we possibly can and close every job that we possibly can. So we made some adjustments and tweaks to pricing and different things, which we're going to talk about. But I'm going to give you guys some stats. In the month of March, our booking percentage was 89%. As I mentioned, all of last year was 80. For 2022. So the month of March was 9% increase over what we did last year. Our completion percentage in the month of March was 70%. So we increased that up from 65 to 70% in the month of March. Now, we did take a slight hit on our average job size. It was about an 8% decrease. Average job size was 555 in the month of March versus last year was 599. So a couple other things to go along with that. In the month of March, our leads were down 24% year over year. And specifically, we had 289 less leads last month than we did March of 2022. Okay. And again, we expected leads to be down, which is why we've been focusing on trying to do more with less. Knowing that 289 less leads, we actually completed 2% more jobs. We completed 13 more jobs in March of this year than we did last year on almost 300 less leads, 24% less leads. Okay. And so now we're going to talk about how did we do that? Because when you do the numbers, if you look back at March of this past year, we had 930 leads on the junk side. And had we have had the same booking and same completion that we did last year, which was 80 and 65, we would have done $231,000 in revenue. But because of what we did from a client communication standpoint, competitive pricing, some of the tweaks and adjustments and training we actually did right at $300,000 in revenue. Okay, so we generated $68,000 more in revenue this past month than what we would have had we had the same booking and same completion. So again, it's a great story of doing more with less. So Ty, let's talk about that. Let's get into it. So first off, what were some of the changes that we made from a client-facing standpoint? What were some of the things, and kind of walk us through some of the steps that you and the team went through?
The first thing that we did was we compared all the pricing. We literally called every junk removal company and acted as a client. Hey, I have 8 couches and I would like to get this removed, and went through how much would it be if I had 1 couch? They gave me their minimum price. How much would it be if I have about 4 couches, 5 couches? They gave me their half truck price. And the 8 couches, they gave me their full truck price. And we found that our prices were just higher than everybody else's prices in the area. So obviously with the working, we knew right then and there we had to take our price down. And then after we shopped around and compared our rates, we used that information from our competitors, obviously, to lower our prices. And we lowered our prices, ending everything with a 9, making that more attractive for the client. Just when you see a 9, 509 or 599, that's better than seeing 510, $600. So it just
The psychology,
yeah, the
the
psychology.
mindset.
Yep.
We'd rather pay 99 than 100. So yeah, that's a small point, but that's big.
And then just more changes, client communication. Every welcome call should be done immediately. If the client is booking a job for 2 weeks down the road, we need to be calling them ASAP and saying, hey, we have availabilities on our schedule today, tomorrow. That increases the likelihood of you just completing the job, because jobs will cancel. If it's not within 3 days, jobs have a higher likelihood of canceling. And just no job is left behind, in our opinion. Every job has to be completed. Every job needs to be completed. If we're in front of that client, we're going to ask that client at the end of the day, what do we have to do to complete this job?
Yeah, that's a mantra that we've been using in the corporate locations this quarter and really the past couple months is hashtag no job left behind. So big fan of that. And just to kind of touch a little bit deeper into that, as a management and leadership team, I know we all got together and after the price shop to look at, okay, this is where the market is at. This is how we can be more competitive, which the numbers show we're booking, and this has been all year. We've been booking much higher. We're in the high 80s, even low 90s. So we're getting 10% higher on our booking percentage. And so obviously you can attribute a lot of that to just more competitive pricing. Our rates are more attractive now than they were in the past. But then also, we really put a big focus on no lost jobs. So when we get out there, we're already there. We've already spent the time, the money, the labor, the fuel. We're already there. We're not going to lose a job over 10, 15, 20, even $50. So talk about that a little bit. What was some of your communication with your ops managers and your team, and also to the captains of, hey, nobody leaves a job unless you call and talk to a manager, and then we're going to try to talk with the client to get that deal. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, the first thing I did with the guys is a lot of our guys here, at least, are very visual learners. So they wanted to understand the reason why behind the lowering the prices. So we pulled out one of our whiteboards, went over everything, and kind of predicted, not as big of a jump as Greg has with the 60,000. We kind of predicted, hey, if we take our prices down by $50, maybe our cup is half full at where our prices were before. So if we take our truck by $50, hopefully our cup begins to overflow. And the way we showed that was by breaking down a weekly schedule of a jobs schedule with 1,015 at our closing percentage before, and then just say we didn't have the numbers at the time, so we just added 2 jobs, 2 full trucks on everybody's schedule. That's an additional $1,800 in revenue. And it just once you start talking monetary with the guys, their eyes get to open. And once we open someone's eyes, we got them, and we can dig in deeper. And then that's when we explain to them, after they understand the process of how they're getting paid and the reason why we're lowering our prices, then you explain to them no job left behind, no client left behind. And we also make it mandatory to have the captains call the ops managers, myself, or whoever's working on the weekend or whoever's closed on the evening to discuss the price. Because like Greg said, no job left behind, no junk job left behind. Because that one job that you're doing for 159 could make or break your goal. Because as I told the guys, if we have 100 jobs for 159 and we started quoting them at 249, but they want to pay 159, if we say no over that $100, that's no. But if we say yes at that 159 mark, that's $159,000 we just made, over 3 months. And everyone here can have $159 jobs in the next 3 months. So, we you just break it down section by section, because the more the guys understand, the more they're willing to run through the walls, and the more they're willing to communicate with you and honest and open, because you're honest and open with them, because they're our first line of defense. They're our first person visually seeing from college hunks.
Yeah, so very good point. And so just to kind of sum up so far, what we've done to do more with less is we did a price shop, realized our pricing was at the very high end and more expensive than everybody else. So we did lower and get more competitive rates, specifically targeting our minimum to try to have a very attractive minimum because we know our average client is not the minimum. Sure, we'll have some here and there. That just gets the job on the books. That just gives us an opportunity. So very attractive minimum. With lowering the minimum, and then also the half truck and full truck, because those are the rates that people are seeing at least online. So we did make those rates more competitive, which has increased the amount of jobs that are hitting our calendar. Then we also really put an emphasis in client communication. So again, as Ty hit on, welcome calls, they got to happen as soon as possible. The sooner we get to them, the more likely we are to complete that job, because it's very common for people to call us or go online, book a job, and then go to one of our competitors and do 2 or 3 price shops and see, is anybody going to be $10 less, $20 less, whatever it is. So if I can get to them as soon as possible before they have an opportunity to do that, and I build rapport, I have that conversation with them, we make a connection with the client, then they're less likely to want to continue shopping. Because they've had that personal interaction with us. So really putting that emphasis on welcome calls as soon as possible, trying to drag that job up, because as you said, if it's outside of 3 days, the likelihood of completion is much lower. So trying to pull those up and offer them, hey, we've got a team that can be out there later this afternoon, tomorrow. So trying to pull those jobs up as soon as possible. The confirmation calls within 24 to 48 hours of the job. Obviously, a lot of jobs that we're getting are same day, next day, but when they are pushed out, we got to make sure we're having the confirmation calls. And then a big emphasis on ETA calls. Our guys are over communicating with the team. We're calling them before their arrival window happens. Okay, so that way the client isn't sitting there from 8 to 10 wondering, are they going to be here at 8, 9, 10? If we know we're not going to be there till closer to 9:30, 10, we're calling them before 8 a.m. even happens. So that way they can go run errands, or they can drop the kids off at school, or they can be on their work meetings. If they're working from home, they don't have to worry about, are we going to show up in the middle of their meeting? They know when we're going to come, and then we call them again before. So over communicating with the client. And that way, when the guys show up, they're starting from a place of victory. They're starting from a winning standpoint versus starting in the hole because we didn't communicate or the communication hasn't been great. So that client communication has been a very, very important part that we've been training and talking about with not only the operations team internally, but also our captains out there. So really big emphasis on that, big emphasis on training and role playing on overcoming objections from our captains team. And then of course, calling into the office and talking with the manager and seeing, do we have any wiggle room? Can we take 550 instead of 600, whatever that might be. So those are some big points. And then the last point that you just talked about is we had to sell this to the team because we knew, of course, that if they just look at it on the surface, we're lowering rates, this is going to impact my paycheck. And so we had to show them the why and show them the big picture of how, yes, on maybe one job, your paycheck could be potentially lower because you're collecting maybe $40 or $50 less in revenue. But as we saw, we ended up completing literally 153 more jobs than we would have had we been at the same completion and booking from last year. And you break that up over 15 captains. I mean, that's literally 10 extra jobs throughout the month, which is 2 jobs per week, a little more than 2.5 jobs per week. So Ty did a really good job of the communication and the why behind this is how we're going to do more with less. And yes, it may mean less per job. You might make $10 or $15 less on this one job, but you're going to have 2 or 3 more jobs, which is more hours, more opportunity for tips. And here's the other thing that we haven't mentioned yet is that 150 extra jobs we completed. We know, study this, the stats and the reporting tells us this, but 25%, 1 out of every 4 jobs is a repeat or referral. Okay, so for every 100 jobs that we do, that means we're going to land an additional 25 at some point from either that person referred someone else or they repeat and do another job. So that's the other benefit of this, and that's more of the long-term game, is we do an extra 100 jobs this month that we wouldn't have done. Maybe we sacrifice a little on average job size, but that's an extra 25 jobs down the road that we're going to collect at some point from repeat and from referral. So big things there. Again, that's the long game that we're playing. So that just kind of summarizes what we actually did from a client-facing standpoint, and also internally, how we communicated it to the team. And then the last question, Ty, is talk to me about calendar management. How are you, because obviously we're doing more jobs, how are you managing the calendar to be efficient, effective, and make sure that we complete every job possible?
The biggest thing I would say is, as a manager, whoever's running your day-to-day, myself, whoever's running it, needs to know what's on every job. They need to actually physically every day for the next 2 weeks go in there and just every day open up the job. So right now it's Wednesday, go from 2 Wednesdays out and open up every job and read it and start configuring how you would like, if you guys want to organize it by zip codes or by neighborhoods or by however you guys organize, just make sure it's an organization way so you don't have a lot of drive time going back and forth. Because if we're driving from A to B and it's only taking us 10 minutes, we can finish a lot more jobs if A, B, and C are only 10, 15 minutes apart than if A and B are an hour apart. You're doing less jobs because you're just driving. And then just knowing what's on the calendar and knowing how to manipulate your schedule. If anyone's ever seen the DC schedule, we crunch our calendar. We put an 8 with a 9. And you got to know, you don't want to put 2 full trucks because then you miss out on your 9 o'clock, because your 8 o'clock took you 3 hours and your 9 o'clock has to be at work at 11:30. So they canceled, and then they already have a sour taste in their mouth. So then they just go to our competitor. No, you look at that calendar, and if you need to bring 2 teams in just to do 2 8 to 10s, because they're both full trucks, that's good. But if you have a couch after your 8 to 10, if your 8 o'clock is a couch and your 9 o'clock's almost a full truck, you can stack those up, as long as the drive time is not too much, because those guys are hitting those stops. It's just all about knowing what you're getting into, your playbook, your game plan. You're the head coach. Whoever's running the day-to-day that day, they're the head coach, so they need to know what the offense and the defense and the special teams is doing. I mean, it's almost as simple as just knowing every job and knowing how to configure every job and knowing your market, knowing your logistics, knowing what neighborhoods are near where.
Yeah, and then that's a great point. I mean, you got to be 100% all in, know every single job, and then also you got to know your captain's capabilities. You'll have some captains that we know we can stack, 2 full cleanouts back to back, and they're going to crush it and handle it. And then there's other team members that maybe we wouldn't put, some of those more rigorous or aggressive jobs on. So knowing what's on the jobs, knowing what's out there, but then also knowing your captain's potential and just kind of how they work and interact, I think is critical as well. Well, guys, this is what we've done. Again, doing more with less, 25%, 24% less leads, literally almost 300 less leads in the month of March compared to last March, and we completed 13 more jobs. And this is how we did it. We got more competitive with our pricing. We really hammered in on training, role playing, overcoming objections, our client communication. Those were the big things that we did. And then again, we sold the why to our team. And then Ty and the ops team here is, fanatical about that calendar. They have it up all day, every day. We're looking at add-ons. We're just doing all the basics, all the things in the playbook. Ty, anything else you want to throw in and add as we wrap up?
Just everyone, just go out there and close every job. That's the one thing I lead every day with the guys is we're going to close 100% of jobs. I text them at 7:30 at night when I'm looking at we're a busy day. Hey, tomorrow's a busy day. We're going to close 100% of the jobs, because if you put it in their mental, they're going to go out and execute it for you. It's human nature. If in their mind they know we want to close all the jobs, they will go out there and close all the jobs for you.
That's right. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for listening. I hope there's something in here that, put a light bulb off or, gave you some inspiration or motivation, because we're no different. If we can do it here in DC, you can do it wherever you're at. If you have questions, your FBC is there to help. So reach out to your FBC, reach out to us. We're glad to answer any questions and help. But your FBCs are eager to answer questions, help you with what does price shopping look like? What's the best strategies? How should I look at, being more competitive? What's some of the training and role play look like? So feel free to reach out to your FBC. They're ready to help. Guys, it's Q4. April is here and it's starting to ramp up. We're coming into busy season. So I know we're feeling it here and I'm sure you guys are as well. So I wish you all an incredible April and Q2 and go out there and make it happen. Thanks for listening. Woo honk.
Woo honk.